Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the brand new episode of X-Men 97 that just debuted this morning, Life Death Part 2. But before we get started, make sure you dive in and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell and the like button. I know that might seem a lot, but it really helps out the channel and it's all free to do, so make sure you go ahead and do all those things as we begin our journey towards 400 subscribers. Now let's talk about X-Men 97. Now, last week's episode was one of the best episodes of TV that I think I've ever seen, animated or otherwise. It was incredible. It was like X-Men 97's Red Wedding, and this episode doesn't really touch on that. It kind of jumps to other parts. The Life Death Part 1 was the back half of Episode 4, so we're picking up that storyline with Storm and Forge, which is just as interesting as the stuff over on Genosha. This storyline's fascinating, and their kind of journey to heal Storm and heal Forge after he got bit in Episode 4, and it's just kind of them working together, learning how to trust each other again after Forge revealed that he helped create the weapon that took Storm's powers, and then it just feels like a whole new era of X-Men, more or less, right from the beginning, especially when during the intro, as heartbreaking as it was, Gambit is no longer in the intro. Magneto, interestingly enough, because I don't think he's dead, is no longer in the intro. But you know who is in the intro? My boy, my favorite X-Men of all time, Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler. He's officially, I guess he's going to be, we'll probably find out in the next episode that he has joined the team officially, and he's kind of taking the spot of Gambit. And as much as I hate to see Gambit go, I love Nightcrawler, and if it means we're going to see more of him, that's excellent. But after we get reintroduced, I should say, to the Storm and Forge storyline, we jump into space because this episode goes cosmic, baby. This episode goes cosmic big time. And we see this guy. You know him. You know Ronan the Accuser. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain Marvel. And I've got to say, someone over at Marvel Studios has to hate this character. Hate him. Because he always is getting bitched out in the MCU. Guardians of the Galaxy, not a good villain. One of the MCU's worst. Captain Marvel, he's better in that movie, but he barely shows up, and what he does, he doesn't look super great. And in this, he gets defeated very quickly, very easily. And I just think it's funny that every time Ronan the Accuser shows up in any MCU, whether it's this universe, the main universe, he always kind of looks like a little bitch. And it's just someone over there, whether it's Kevin Feige, someone has to hate this character, because he's not like, I want to put him like top 10 villains in the comic books, but he's nowhere near like bottom tier for sure. It's just interesting to see that. But of course, the reason we go up to space, if you saw the original X-Men cartoon, is that Charles Xavier never actually died. He got taken up to the Shi'ar Empire, and the X-Men thinks he's dead, but as us viewers know, like, hey, that's not the case. And we've all been wondering, like, hey, when are they gonna acknowledge this? And they finally do. They reveal what his life has been like up there with the Shi'ar Empire during the Shi'ar and Kree War, and it was very interesting to see. And then, of course, we get some of the other characters like Nighthawk, and I always want to call I can't remember his name. Guardian, is that his name? I always want to call him Hyperion. I know he's not Hyperion. Obviously, he's like the space version of Hyperion, more or less. But I think his name's like Guardian. I'm not quite sure. I'm not too familiar with that group exactly. But we get introduced to all of that. We get introduced to the Kree Shi'ar Empire, which we've seen a little bit in the MCU, but not too much. They really blast the doors open in this. We get to learn about the Shi'ar culture, how they feel about Professor X being there, how they feel about him possibly getting married to the Queen, and how her sister obviously feels about that, and Nighthawk after what happens with her brother in the comics. It's just really cool cosmic stuff, some deep cuts if you're not a comic book fan. Like, this episode could throw some people off that are expecting some follow-up from last week, and then it gets into this crazy cosmic side of things. It could throw people off, but it absolutely reintroduces us to Professor X in a big bad way, which this is the first time we've really seen him in X-Men 97, so it was cool to see. And what a bummer that he's coming back just as Magneto's gone? Question mark. And he even references Magneto at one point, like he quotes him, and then he goes like, I had a good friend that said that once, his name was Magnus. And then you can tell he's kind of thinking about his old friend, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens when he returns to Earth for sure. But after that, we do jump back to the Storm and Forge storyline. Storm's kind of going off on her own because Forge is injured and she has to save him, and to do so, she almost has to like conquer some anxiety, some mental health effects, some mental health problems, and really kind of get out of her own way before she can reclaim her powers, and she does, and it looks badass. This is her kind of going through the transformation, and she comes back out. The mohawk is no more. She's got like the classic long white Storm hair, the classic like 90s Storm black like leather looking costume with the wings and everything. It looked so cool. I was so jazzed because that's my favorite Storm design. I've always loved that design. That was the design that Storm had when I started reading comics way back in the day, so that was really, really cool to see, and I'm glad Storm got her powers. And then you know, she heals Forge, and they turn on the news and they see about the attack on Genosha, and they're like, oh my god, like how did this happen? So they're heading back to the mansion. Professor X also, he you know, he's about to get married to the queen there of the Shi'ar Empire, and then he like gets a, you know, all the shit breaks down, shit breaks loose between Nighthawk, the Shi'ar, the Kree, everything just goes bananas. And then Professor X uses his powers to kind of show them how he feels, what he means, like how he handles things, and then he gets a psychic vision of Gambit, and that Gambit is dead and it has been wiped out by the Sentinels, and he gets this vision. He's like, I have to return, I have to go back to Earth. If this ends our, you know, relationship, that is what it is, but I have to go, you know, be with my X-Men right now. So next week could be a huge episode because it looks like Storm and probably Forge are heading to the X-Mansion. Professor X is heading to the X-Mansion. Will he bring the Queen with him? Will he bring anyone else with him? We'll have to see what are the reactions going to be to Professor X still being alive. How are they going to handle him being alive when Magneto and Gambit are gone? Like, it's going to be a huge week next week if they follow through with the main storyline. I'm loving this show so far. Easily the best show on TV, in my opinion, which is crazy because we have some great shows on right now, like Fallout, Shogun, The Sympathizer, like some great TV right now. And X-Men 97 is the best one of them all, in my opinion. So another great episode. Like I said, I can see some people being turned off that it doesn't follow up on last week's really, and then it kind of really dives into this wacky cosmic side of the X-Men. I can see some people being turned off, but not me. As a huge comic book X-Men fan, I was eating this stuff up, and I can't wait to see where we go with Mr. Sinister and the X-Men next. So what did you think of this week's episode of X-Men 97? Do you think it was a mistake not to immediately follow up last week's big events? Do you think it was smart to show what the other characters are doing inside the world of X-Men? So let's chat down in the comments below. As I said at the beginning of the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make new videos. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys right here next time.